Fourth and Four podcast, coaching leadership and lessons learned from football coaches in 35 minutes. Fast-paced growth for your lift, run, or commute. I'm Donald Lawrence. Our guest today is Pete Longoria, is currently the wide receiver coach and strength coach at Cypress Park High School. Welcome to the podcast, Coach.
How you doing, Coach? I appreciate you having me, man. Thank you for the invite.
I'm doing fantastic, man. I like trying to fit these into my daily schedule. You know, we're doing a nightcap right now after the 2 championship games, so I'm glad we're getting to fit it in. How'd you get into coaching?
I got into coaching in 2006. It was actually kind of by accident. I was substitute teaching in my last semester of college. One of my friends told me, he was like, man, you need to try this subbing thing. And I got into subbing, and then my first day of subbing was a PE job. And I ran into some of the coaches that coached me when I was in high school, and they were like, is this what you're going to do? And I was like, no. And they were like, well, what are you going to do? And I had no clue what I was going to do. And I was graduating in 4 months. And I was really, I wasn't concerned, but at that point in time, I got a little concerned. And that was when I started my journey right there, was in 2006, substitute teaching.
Where were you at that time? So where'd you go to high school, and where were you at subbing, and how'd you meet the coaches that worked with you in high school?
I graduated from Cypress Springs High School in 2002, and I was actually subbing at Cypress Springs High School that particular day. And it was just funny that I ran into some of the coaches. I didn't even think much of it the day that I was subbing. Like, I was like, oh, I'm just subbing, because I didn't recognize the name for the person I was subbing for. And then I run into a lot of the coaches that coached me.
That's awesome. How do you find meaning on a daily basis from the profession?
On a daily basis, how do I find meaning in this profession? I really just keep on remembering the coaches that I had starting in 7th grade and going forward. And because I had a 7th grade coach that was really tough on us. He was really, really hard on us. I don't think I didn't think at the time the amount of running and the amount of things that we did was necessary, but we were successful. We won. And then from then on out, I had this very high standard of coaches when I played sports. And so whenever I did have a coach that didn't meet that same standard, I just wasn't happy. So when I got into coaching, I was like, this is the coach that I want to be.
One of the things that's interesting about you, Coach, is you have a different professional background. Would you talk about that for a couple minutes? Let the listeners know you're the most electrifying man in sports entertainment.
So when I was in high school, I enjoyed playing sports. But at the time when I was in high school, and everybody, in the mid 90s, 95, 96, everybody got into, WWE, WCW and all those things. And so a couple of my friends and I, we kind of took a path that way in getting into professional wrestling. And I was 15 years old, and I guess you can say I was kind of at a crossroads where it was football, basketball, track, or pro wrestling. So after my junior year of high school, made a decision, because my mom just so happened to work with a professional wrestler, and they got us into their training school when we were 16 years old, and we got into it, and I started my training as a professional wrestler. And my name was Lil Chico. I was a high flyer. I didn't wear a mask. That was the main thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to wear a mask. But then I learned about the business of professional wrestling, and the promoter that I worked for was a female, and she was like, no, you're too cute to wear a mask. And so,
okay.
So that was something that I really got into. I was a professional wrestler for 7 years, went through tables, did all, chairs and all that stupid stuff that you would think that everybody's oh, wrestling's fake. So one of the biggest things my biggest takeaway from professional wrestling was professional wrestlers are probably the best athletes in the world. And here's why. And it's because they put their bodies on the line night after night after night. Yes, it's predetermined. So yes, the fake part, but you're putting your body on the line every night. The falls are real, the bumps are real, all that stuff. So for anyone that will say, oh, pro wrestling's fake, cool. I'm glad you have that belief. Go do a week as a professional wrestler, and you will change your mind.
Well, I'm a 90s baby, just like you. I graduated a year after you. And I'm telling you, you lived out every kid from the 90s dream right there, Coach. The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H, Man, that was my joint in the late '90s. So congratulations to you because I know that was a lot of hard work and bumps and bruises along the way, but I bet it was a lot of fun and good memories.
Yes, sir. It was. It was definitely a whole lot of fun, and people still ask me. You're asking me about it today, and so that's the awesome part. I haven't been in a wrestling ring since 2008. I did one more match with one of the schools that I worked at. We had a fundraiser, and I had one of the companies that I worked for, come in, and we did a fundraiser. But they said the only requirement to do the fundraiser is they said I had to do a match, and I felt like crap after that.
Well, it led me to give the best wedding gift I think I've ever given was the Honky Tonk Man autograph for your wedding
Yes.
because
Yep.
I know you're going to get your forks and your knives and a whole bunch of other stuff you're going to take back to Macy's and get the refund back so you can get what you really want. But I was like, man, this is once in a lifetime. How often do you go to a pro wrestling wedding?
Yep, it was awesome. That gift is awesome. It sits right next to a lot of the memorabilia that I have as a coach, and people always look at that one picture and they're like, "Why do you have a picture of the honky tonk man?" It's like, great story. You ready? So yeah, yeah.
What part of your off-season program is the most important to in-season success?
That that question right there. When I saw it, I loved it, and here's why. The most important part is building the camaraderie between the new group of kids that you have. Your seniors are graduating. And so now you have this group of freshmen who are typically not in the same period as your sophomores and your juniors, and they got you. You have to find a way to get them to come together. So it's the camaraderie they have to build after school because they're not in the same athletic period. So we stress to them after school: get your weight room, get your outside workout, get those things, and build the relationship that you need to have because we have a season that's going to be coming up. You have 9 months to get ready for the next season, and we call, and where I'm at Cypress Park, we call it our season because it's our time to get better. There's no one else we're competing against other than ourselves. So make sure you get that weight room. Make sure you get outside. Make sure you're getting all those drills, throwing the ball, catching the ball, working, anything that you are going to do from your position standpoint with the group of guys that you're working with. So that's the camaraderie is probably the most important part of the success for the next season.
So building the team, going through
Yep.
hard things together, accomplishing tasks together, testing together, doing discipline together, all that stuff kind of gelling for when it's in the third quarter and you're down 8 and you got to do something, right? You're going to
Definitely.
need to be
Definitely.
able to rely on each other, trust each other, and hold each other accountable.
Yep, most definitely. And it's groups. It's a group of 14 to 17, 18-year-old kids that it doesn't click. It doesn't click until it's like you're in game 2 or game 3, and the kids are like, "That's why I did everything I did with those guys." So
You mentioned earlier that some of your high school coaches saw you while you were substituting and started talking and asking you about coaching. Who
mhm.
helped mentor you early in your career, and how did you benefit from that relationship?
I'm going to be really honest with you. There was a lot of guys that mentored me. Darby Young is one of the first guys that comes to mind. He's actually the athletic director in Klein ISD right now. Chris Brister, he's the head coach at Cypress Falls High School. But where I picked up a long-term substitute job was at Cypress Ridge High School, and Coach Gary Thiebaud was there. He was the head coach at the time. Ronald Patton was the defensive coordinator there, and Brad Beerwinkle, who's the defensive coordinator at Bridgeland High School right now. He had just moved down. He had just left the college job, and all those guys, anytime I was subbing, I'd go make time because I knew that, okay, this is what I'm working towards. So I started to have those conversations with them. And, one of the coaches asked me, they said, and this was one of the coaches that I didn't know at the time, was Coach Moore. And he was like, are you going to be a coach that teaches, or are you going to be a teacher that coaches? And I didn't understand that question when he originally asked me that. And that has always stuck with me till this day because I wanted to be a teacher that coaches because teaching in this profession is probably the most important part of it all. And I think that piece, that tidbit stuck with me so much. And that's what Coach Thiebaud was really all about. And when I started looking for jobs, Coach Thiebaud put out so many feelers for me. He's like, if you apply for a job, let me know. If if you need something, let me know. And to this day, I can still pick up the phone and call Coach Thiebaud. I can call Coach Patton. I can call Coach Beerwinkler. I can call Coach Brister. Any of those guys, they opened up a lot of doors for me, and they showed me what this profession was about.
One of the things that you just hit on was a teacher that coaches or coaches that teaches, right? So this idea of coaches and then consolidating all the responsibilities you got and being a great teacher as well, right? And that's got to be your number one. When you look at your paycheck, where does your money come from, right?
Yeah.
It's coming from teaching. And one of the things that Coach Cephas, Corey Cephas, over the head baseball coach at Cy Ranch, told me probably about 8 years ago was football is the best taught subject on the campus. And that was something that kind of resonated to me. Like, yeah, I mean, we have video, we review, we have a game plan, we instruct, we demonstrate, and then carrying that over into the classroom. And I'm fortunate to teach a subject like health, where we do get to do some hands-on things and things like that. And when he said that, I kind of took that approach of how do we introduce and teach learning concepts in football and then put it into the classroom. Classroom got so much easier.
Mm-hmm. I got into a little bit of trouble when I was a special ed teacher, in class support, because my appraiser at the time, she was like, "Hey, I need to come see you teach." And I said, "Well, come to one of my athletic periods." And she's like, "No, I need to see you teach." And I said, "That's fine." And she was like, "No, I can't." She's like, "Athletics isn't a subject." I'm like, "Well, it's incorporated in the day." And I said, "And I promise you're going to see some of the best teaching that you've seen. And if you can't, understand it, then I'll explain it to you afterwards. But I want you to come see me in my athletic period." Because when you're an in-class support teacher, you're not always that full-time teacher. You're not always the person that's up in front of the kids doing that. And they always tell you when they're praising you, don't put on a dog and pony show. Well, if I'm not the one teaching every day, then we are putting on a dog and pony show. And that's why I wanted her to come see us in the athletic period, because I was like, you're going to see us in the weight room. You're going to see us, do everything we need to do, whether, the kids are getting lined up, where they need to be on time. And we have a set schedule. It's not just free for all, because some of the schools I have worked at, some counselors and administrators and things like that, they think the football period is we throw the football around all day, and that's all we do. And then we pick up the football and we go get dressed and we go to the next class.
Yeah, I know exactly what kind of administrators you're talking about. Fortunately for me, I've only dealt with maybe one my whole career. I've been very fortunate to be around strong administration who understands the value of athletics and how athletics, especially the football program, can set the tone and the culture for the campus. What is one thing you incorporate in your program to develop your athletes beyond the game?
So I never knew about this, that this was something that needed to be done. It wasn't until I got to Cypress Park, when I started working for Coach Rogers, who's the head coach there now. We have a program called Character Wins, and it's a 36-week program. It fits into the school year. It's a one weekly activity with questions and videos. And we do have to update the videos from time to time because sometimes it doesn't fit the time period. But we have that program, and like I said, it's 36 weeks, and there's a different topic every week. And the cool thing is it goes by grade level. So we have a freshman book, we have a sophomore book, a junior book, and a senior book. So every year you're going to get different lessons. And so the cool thing is at the beginning of the school year, we set the schedule, and Coach Rogers tells us, hey, if there's topics that you want to cover with these kids, and you can relate to it really, really well, then let's go ahead and do it. And one of the big topics that I really, that resonates with me, and I know this is always a tough subject, but suicide is always the subject that I like. It sounds really weird that I say I like it, but both of my brothers, I've gone through that with my brothers. And so when that topic comes up, I can really talk to the kids and I can really get them to understand. And I think I can be very genuine, and they can see how genuine I am when I'm talking about that subject. And the kids, I think it lets us, it lets the kids see us in a different light, and they're like, oh man, this isn't just a guy that's just all about football. It's like this guy's a real person, and I feel like that program, doing it for 7 years, has been really, really cool. We also have a leadership group at our school where we started to use 2 words at Stephen Mackey's program, and so it's really cool that, like, I have the character wins and I have the 2 words, and I'm able to work, intertwine both types of lessons with our program at Cypress Park.
I'm familiar with the 2 words program. I'm not familiar with the character wins program. Can you give me an example of a lesson, a daily lesson or a weekly lesson, and what all would go into that?
So, so the cool thing, like, so at the beginning, the first section of character wins it's called Why Character. And the whole lesson's about what is character, why do we learn character, and why is it important for that. And then, it's always just 2 pages. It gives you the lesson, the reading, there's a short reading, and then there's always about 6 questions, and it's the observation and then the application question. So the observation always relates to the reading itself. So the why character, it's going to have questions like, what is character? Why do you need to learn character? And then the application is what can you change about your character? What are you looking for about changing your character? And there's always a link down at the bottom that will lead a video, and it's always like a 2 to 3 minute video. Each lesson is only supposed to be about 15 to 20 minutes. Sometimes we do go over, and we've devoted a whole day at Cypress Park. On Wednesday, we do character wins, no matter what. And that, some coaches, they don't see it and understand it at first, but I love it. And sometimes we do use the whole period going through character wins because the conversation gets that good. And so you go from why character to goal setting. That's the second chapter. Every year, the first 2 chapters in both books are always the same. And then they veer off to a topic like suicide. And they're, this week's topic, because I remember it, this week's topic that we're going to be doing is called Dad MIA. And it's another tough topic that, some people don't ever want to talk about, but the topic is about a lot of kids growing up without fathers, and how us as coaches can help these kids and be like that father figure to these kids.
As a student and an athlete, I would really appreciate a program like that, because I like kind of when you get off topic, right? You have your routine, and then all of a sudden we're going to hit on something else. Like we're going to hit on leadership lessons of Geronimo or Teddy Roosevelt, right? We're going to hit on these different, or Muhammad Ali or whoever, right?
Yeah.
That would excite me as a student, like something to learn different that I wasn't expecting, because I know what to expect in football. Football is very there's different ways to skin a cat, right? But I mean, you're introducing things on Monday, you're getting the bulk in on Tuesday, you're polishing stuff up on Wednesday and making corrections. On Thursday, you're making sure everything's ready to go and you're able to play the game and execute at a high level. And then you have this break on Wednesday where, hey, we're going to learn about something else today. Yep. We're not going to focus on an opponent. We're going to focus on ourselves, on personal growth. I think that's an outstanding plan.
Yeah, our freshmen, it always catches them off guard, even though we try to give them a heads up during freshman camp about this is what we're going to do. For about the first 4 or 5 weeks, it's a blank stare. And then it's really like, we've even had parents ask us, like, well, why are y'all even doing this? And then when we show the parents the booklet and we tell the kids, take your booklet home, the parents do appreciate it. And they're like, oh my gosh, like you do care like a lot more than just about touchdowns and, play calling and stuff like that.
Yeah. One of the things that it also helps you with is there's going to be lean years, right? Your attendance zones are going to change. And you want not only yourself and your staff, but your administration to go to bat. Like they're getting a much better education than what just showed up in the left-hand column of the season. The left-hand column is going to go up. Just give it some time. All the other things are being developed within the student athlete, and they're set for success in life.
Yeah.
What is something now you wish you knew sooner?
Get ready to work. You have to be ready to work as a coach. And I'm not just talking about on the athletic side, the classroom, the extra time that you are going to put in with the kids, like, yeah, you're going to have football practice, but I didn't know that I was going to have to give a kid a ride home, or I'm going to have to wait up at the school till 10 p.m. because, their parents were, had to work late. And that's something that I really wish that, yeah, because I didn't know that. I just thought we'd finish practice and coaches would just get in the car and go home and live their life. And I was never the person that thought that, teachers and coaches weren't real people. Like some people do. Some people think we're robots, but I just wish that I knew that at the start is like, get ready to work. And I was not prepared for that at all. My first couple of years of coaching, I figured it out pretty quick, and then now it's not a problem for me.
That's funny you bring that up. I think students, and I know I had this problem when I was a student. I didn't know it at the time, but when I was a student and player, I used to think, hey, there's coach so-and-so. He's always been coach so-and-so. Like he was born at that age. He has that level of knowledge, that level of experience. When I leave here, he like disappears, and then he'll be back in the morning. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing that's going to
Yeah.
happen to him between now and then. And I think
Not a thing.
that's really interesting, and I try to teach that to my kids in athletics and in the classroom. Teachers are people. We used to be in your shoes. We learned lessons along the way. We go home and have a second shift with our family and responsibilities. And I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt coming in here as a student because I have no idea what you're coming from, right? I have no idea what
Yeah.
that environment is when you wake up. And I think it'd be helpful for you to learn to give other people, including your teachers, the benefit of the doubt because you have no idea what they're dealing with. Maybe they have a parent
Yeah.
that's dying of cancer. Maybe they have a kid that's sick. Maybe they didn't get any sleep last night because of XYZ. I think that's an important lesson for kids. And that was a great point, Coach. What is a piece of advice you would give a first-year football coach?
Get ready to work, learn how to do laundry, and if you have an ego, put it aside now because you don't know anything you think you know.
Ego's the enemy.
And ego is the enemy. I've worked with a lot of first year, second year, and third year coaches while being at Cypress Park. And I don't want to say I've had the luxury or the benefit, but I've watched some of these guys burn out pretty quick or bail out because they weren't prepared for what what we were doing. We actually had, this was 4 years ago. It was before COVID. And we actually had a coach's son join our staff. He quit after the second day. And I think, we saw that coach and he was like, I apologize, guys. I guess I didn't prepare my son enough for what he was getting himself into. He quit after 2 days. And it was just like, it was appalling. And we still, I don't want to say that, and I think it sounds kind of mean, but we still kind of joke about it till this day. Like, dang, 2 days is the record. I don't know if anybody else has quit, sooner than that. But if you're a first year coach, if you're second year, third year, or even if you're a first year coach at a new campus, just kind of put your head down, keep your ears open, and keep your mouth shut unless you just really have something like really like not creative, but something that really can help because sometimes you think but you really don't, especially when you're on a campus that you don't know how everything is functioning because you work with coaches and they're always like, well, at my last school or when I was in college or when I played, this is how things were. And it's like, but sometimes it doesn't always fit. I like to always give the example of me being a strength coach. People are like real secretive about their workouts and stuff like that. I talked to a strength coach one time and he said, if you ever want my workout, you're going to have it. And people always ask me why. And he said, because you can't execute it the way that I can.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing. There's no secrets in what we do. Football, there's offense, there's defense, there's special teams. In the weight room, there's workouts. But it's who's executing it, who's putting it, and how are the kids applying it to game day. And I think that's the biggest thing is about your ego. Well, yes, you played in the pros, but that doesn't like automatically give you a gift card to be like the greatest coach in the world because it may not always work out that way.
Putting your ego in check is the best piece of advice for anybody on any level in any organization. I have plans to bring on two guys that are currently at College Station High School, the head coach, Stoney Pryor, and offensive line coach, Kyle Walsh. And that's going to be the first one that I do where I want two coaches on there because I can't separate those guys. I went to A&M Consolidated my 5th year with an inflated ego, right? My self-importance. I felt that I was here, and in reality, I was here, right? And what I've learned is since that time, I've gone to here, where you still can't see my hand above the screen. And those two guys, their humility, their ability to tolerate me when I was 26, 27, they had just gone to the regional final, I believe. They had a coaching change. Coach Pryor was actually the offensive coordinator, gets demoted, has to be the wide receiver coach. Doesn't have to be, but is the wide receiver coach. And those two guys could have been as angry, as bitter, as frustrated as anybody. And they were awesome. They were amazing. They dealt with me. They dealt with my ego. They taught me to put my ego in check. And they really kind of changed my career. And now Stoney's the head coach at College Station. They played in a state championship this past year, his first year. They're doing really well for themselves. And I wish I would have paid more attention or had more awareness at that age. So I'm looking forward to having those two guys on, and that'll be fun because they're going to have some stories about how stupid I was.
Well, the cool thing about, for me is I didn't play at the highest level or, I didn't play in college when it came to, college sports. We talked about my pro wrestling career. The pro wrestling career was where I probably learned how to, put my ego in check because as a pro wrestler, it doesn't matter who you are either. When you get to a show and you get in the locker room, the number one rule is you better shake everybody's hand in the locker room. If you miss one person, you got trouble with that person. You really do. And you better not miss it. And so it did not matter. And I did get to work for the WWE twice, and it worked the same way. There's no, and I'm in awe. Like Ric Flair came up to me and shook my hand. I'm like, holy crap, it's Ric Flair. And, holy crap, it's John Cena. And it's like, I'm meeting I'm stunned. But what you had to do as a pro wrestler, no matter who you were, you go in the locker room, you better shake everybody's hand. And I think learning that lesson at 16, 17 years old, it helped carry over to my coaching career. And that's what I really, I really make sure that, you have yourself in check, your ego.
I think to piggyback on that is trying to teach the kids in the classroom and in the hallway. It takes zero effort to say good morning, right? Just to smile, acknowledge someone's existence. Hey man, good morning. How you doing? And I was just reading an article today about that's the number one correlation between classroom management, behavior in the classroom is greeting kids at the door. Saying good morning, have them look you in the eye and say good morning, because that's how people are made to communicate. I know this is a podcast, but podcast communication is awful, right? People can't see our mannerisms. I'm glad we have the camera. If you watch on YouTube, you'll be able to see us interact. But if you're just listening on Spotify, or we just got on Amazon, by the way, so that's pretty cool.
All right.
People aren't designed to talk that way. They're not designed to talk behind keyboards and phone cameras. So, that's interesting as far as just teaching people how to be cordial and interact on a daily basis. How do you balance coaching, family time, and personal time?
I figured out and understood that there's only 24 hours in the day. And I started to look at the whole day and say, okay, how am I really going to do this? What do I really need to do? Because, as a teenager, you like to stay up late and you like to play video games and you like to talk to your girlfriend, or you like to just do anything and stay up. And then it was it didn't matter how much sleep you get. So now, as you started working, okay, I got to be at work at a certain time. I got to make sure that I'm ready and prepared for the day. So, okay, I got to make sure I'm asleep by 10, you know, 10 o'clock. And then, before I got into, really enjoying working out and things like that, understanding that, that's something that I need to do. So, but make sure you know how to utilize all 24 hours in the day. And that's how you'll find your balance. That's how you'll find out, what you're going to do with your day. Because if you don't, then you start to lose that. Like my parents, I really lost track of my parents in my about first 5 years of coaching, and that's because I was coaching on the college level, and I was traveling a whole lot year round. And so my parents would be like, "You're never home. You never talk to us." So I kind of made it a rule. Like anytime I got off of work, when I was a strength coach at Prairie View A&M, I'd get off work, I'd make 3 phone calls. I'd call my mom, I'd call my brother, and I'd call my dad. It didn't matter. It was always in that order. If one of them didn't pick up, then I could move on to the next call. But then I returned back. So if my mom didn't pick up, call my brother. And then talk to my brother, talk to my dad, and then go on and then come back around to my mom. But it didn't matter. And then if I started to miss that call, my mom was the worst at it. Is she'd be like, "Did you forget you had a mother?" And so that's how you make sure you have those relationships. And now that I'm married and now that I have a child, it's figuring out that new balance and figuring out how to make it work.
The first time I don't even think I met you. I just was at the same place you were at. You were presenting as the Prairie View A&M strength coach at a strength clinic in Alvin. And I was the strength and conditioning coordinator at Langham Creek. So I drive all the way down there, and you give a presentation, and I wrote this down. One of the things I take pride in is taking notes. I take notes from the podcast. So the very first one I did, I was taking notes as the podcast was going on, and then I was like, it's recording. I'll just take them after, right? But I went down there, and I remember making a note. We were talking about Prairie View and some of the limited resources, and you said, never use time or space as a reason not to get it done. And I remember writing that down, and I see that to this day. We have a retention pond in front of our campus. We can't get in the weight room. We can't do cleans. Good. We'll go to the retention pond. We'll do broad jumps up the retention pond. We'll get in triple extension, and we'll use gravity as our resistance.
Yeah.
I just remember that distinctly, and I appreciate that presentation you gave that day because it really kind of changed my mindset on it doesn't matter. We don't have these resources. Good. We get to do it this way. We get to keep it simple. We didn't get the equipment. We'll keep it simple. Whatever it is.
Yep. You have to make it work for you. And I think that leads into, me saying, as a coach, you just said it, don't let time or resources be an excuse. Just keep working and find a way to work, utilize your time. I think that's another thing that, young coaches don't understand. They'll always, it always goes back to, well, at my school or when I was in college or when I played, it's like, who cares? We're not there. And if it was so great there, go back there, work there. And, we'll figure it out. We'll make it work for us. The cool thing is being at Cypress Park it was a brand new campus. So I've kind of been able to help put things into play at that school and make everything work for us.
That's the ultimate crutch. The ultimate crutch is, well, when I did it, or this is the way it's always been, just tell me why it's the best way. Explain it other than that's the way it's always been, or that's the way you were taught. Tell me scientifically, tell me practically, tell me logistically. If you can do that, I'm in. But if you can't, then we need to figure something else out.
Yep.
So you're a new dad.
Yep.
Congratulations on that.
Appreciate it.
We talked earlier about the honky tonk man as a honky tonk autograph as a wedding gift. What marital advice do you have for our new coaches out there?
I liked what Cody Glenn said on the last episode, and
we had one listener, I guess.
It was, but if you meet that girl at the bar, she ain't the one, and she's really not. Make sure you're with somebody that understands the work that you're going to put in and the time that you're going to put in. I really have the benefit, like Cody Glenn, that I'm married to an athletic trainer. My wife, athletic trainers probably work more than anybody else, even coaches. And
they do.
I met her while I was working at the University of New Orleans. Didn't know her at all. Built a relationship with her. She's been the best person for me. My brother passed away while I was living in New Orleans, and she was one of the people that was like right there for me. And I was really in a really bad place, and I had four people that really stuck with me, that really picked me up. And like I didn't want to work. I didn't want to do anything. I lost one of the most important people in my life, and that it was bad. And so make sure, that going back to that, the marital advice, make sure that person knows, what you do and how much time you put into it, and be honest with them. Because I dated somebody, this was in 2009, I dated somebody, and I told them how busy I was going to be. And the relationship lasted 4 months. And they were very angry at me. And I was like, I didn't lie to you. I told you how busy I was going to be. And I moved on. And it wasn't like I was being mean or ugly about it, but you have to be honest.
People outside the profession or don't understand the passion about why you do what you do have no idea. Like they don't get it. And here's a perfect example. My mom's a doctor. She wanted me to I was going to be a lawyer. I was going to go to law school. That was the plan. Got into coaching. She was not happy. Right? So let's fast forward 16 years. My sister is getting married this fall. She's getting married on October 21st in New Orleans. It's a Saturday. And so my mom calls me a couple of weeks ago, and she's got this big itinerary to pay for a rented van, and I'm going to pick her up on Thursday, and I'm going to drive her. I'm like, what? No, it's not working that way. My wife and my kids are going to fly or arrange travel by themselves, and I got to see my schedule. If I play play Friday, I'll play Friday, and I'll drive up Saturday, and then I'm driving back, and I'm game planning. If I play Saturday, I'll drive up Friday, do the rehearsal, and then I'm driving back, and I'm coaching my game. And that's like the craziest thing to them. And not to disrespect my sister or her relationship or whatever. It's their weekend. It's their wedding, right? It's just I'm going to do what I got to do, and I'll still be appreciative of that. But I'm going to take care of my kids, and I'm going to take care of my football team first.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
What has been the most gratifying moment in your coaching career?
The most gratifying moment in my coaching career, there's been quite a bit, just because I have had a lot of success. But it was 3 years ago. I was the head wrestling coach at Cypress Park for the first 5 years of the school's existence. We had a whole lot of success. In the first 2 years, we had won 2 district championships. I've had some state placers. And so going into year 5, Coach Rogers and I had already talked about this, going into, opening the school. And he was like, hey, I need a wrestling coach. Can you give me 5 years? And I was like, cool. So this is going into year 5, and we're talking about it. And I have a special group of seniors, and I didn't want to give up on them. I didn't want to quit on them, and I didn't want to tell them either. So this whole year, I'm going into this season knowing this is going to be my last year as the head wrestling coach. And the reason why is because I wanted to build my career in being a football coach and being a head coach potentially. But now I'm missing a lot of stuff being a wrestling coach because so much stuff happens in January as far as clinics go. So we get to the district championship. We're kicking butt. We're doing really well. But Cypress Ranch is right there.
Always. It's always those guys.
And it came down to 2 matches. And we needed to win these 2 matches. We win the first one. Boom. My heart's pounding. Because I want to go out. I want to go out on top with these kids. And we get to the next match, and the next match is a for sure thing. And the match went a lot longer than it should have. My girl wins, and boom. And right there, like, my heart sank, and like there was just like this weird aura, this weird feeling that came over me. And we won district, and then 3 district championships in 5 years were awesome, great success for a brand new program. and my wife came down on the floor and she gave me a hug. And nobody knows this. Telling you guys is probably telling you. I put my head in her shoulder and I just cried. And I was tired. I was really really tired, and I was really really happy at the same time. And it was like, okay, I got this done. I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish with these kids. And after the season, probably a week after the season, I pulled all the kids up and I let them know that that was going to be my last year as the head wrestling coach at Cypress Park. And they were happy for me. They were like, "Oh, Coach, at least you did it. Did it with us, and we won, and we were successful." So it made that moment that much better. But what was really cool it was like icing on the cake. Is they bought me a championship belt, and it's really really cool. I have it in my office at work. Has a big logo for Cypress Park, but on the side, on each side, the boys, seniors, they laser etched all the stuff. The seniors for that class signed it. The girls on the other side, and then they had all the district championships listed on another little part of the belt, and then they put all the Coach of the Year's awards that I won while being the head wrestling coach. So it was like it was so awesome to take in and just know that, like, okay, this is just a piece of my my coaching career, but it was like so enjoyable to have.
Those memorabilia items you get from kids are by far the most enjoyable, gratifying, right, as the question goes, part of the job. So I've been fortunate a few times, but two in particular, right? We finally got Langham over the hump in 2012. We ended up going to the second round of the playoffs and playing Katy at NRG, and it didn't end well for the Lobos that day. But there's a picture of me coaching the kids on the bench from the stands that my wife actually took. She was my girlfriend at the time, on an iPhone. And the quality was really good for 2012. And so she got this picture, and it's all our kids there. And you carry your JV guys and stuff like that, and they all signed it and gave it to me. And it was an amazing gift. And then in 2017, we lost 2 games, both to Cy-Fair, who won the state championship that year. We lost week 10 for the district championship, and then we lost week 14 for the regional championship, both to Cy-Fair. And one of my backup centers was a welder in school, and they had made this big, our slogan that year was All In. And they had made a logo that said All In, and they all signed it and painted it and gave it to me. And those are the best, man.
Yeah.
Those are the best. It's a lot better. I mean, the locker room after a big win's fun. Everybody's juice is going. But when they come back and you're not really expecting it, they give you something that, they took the time to think about is really cool.
Yeah, that you're not wrong, and I have a lot of little things from over the years, but that belt is pretty dang cool, and it's kind of cool because coaches come into the office and they'll see that, they'll be like, "What's that for?" And they all think it's for, like, because a lot of football programs are doing the championship belt stuff, and I'm like, no, it's not for that. And then I show them and I explain it to them, and they're like, "That's even better,"
right?
So yeah, so
all right. It's 4th and 4. You're on the 50. 2 minutes left to go in the game. You have no timeout. You got to get a first down. What's your thought process? What's your personnel? What's your formation? What's your play?
All right. So everybody always makes fun of the offense that we're in at Cypress Park. We run the wing tee. It was an offense that I had no idea about, and
I've
learned about it
because I know that offense is about this.
Yeah,
freaking knocking heads. Yep. That's a good offense.
So we're going to be in our regular formation. We're going to be in right open. So it's basically a double wing. And we got the one receiver out there. And we're going straight at you, and we're running trap. And we're going at you. We're going to go get that first down.
We got a run play?
And then that's when we'll start to – we got a run play. It's 4th and 4.
Coach, that's why the whole podcast is called 4th and 4, because you might have a really good run play, but you're not sure if it's going to get 4 yards. You might have a good pass play, but you're going to risk the pass. 4th and 4 is the ultimate. What are you going to do? I like the run. First
Yep.
run answered. Let's go.
Yep. So we always tell our kids we need 3 or 4 yards every play. Doesn't matter after that because we can just take the ball down the field 3 or 4 yards, 3 or 4 yards. So that's what we push. We push to our offensive linemen. We push to our fullback and our tailback and our wingback. Like, guys, you go get 4 yards, and that's the accomplishment. If we break it out any further, then that's a success. That's an even bigger success. But our fullback is typically our second best ball carrier. So we're gonna give it to him, and we're gonna go get 4 yards, and then we're gonna go from there. And we're gonna go score after that.
Probably with 1 second left.
Exactly. Because you didn't tell me about how many points I was down. Did you say down by a
No,
touchdown?
you got to
Or
be down by 5. You're down by 5. We're not going for
down by
field goals
5?
here.
Okay, then.
Like,
Okay.
it's
No,
do or
then we're
die.
gonna go
We got
score.
to get the first down.
Yep. Then we're gonna go score.
Coach, this was a fantastic interview. It's my first time in a new backdrop. A lot of first on this
Appreciate
one,
it.
so I appreciate it. Tell the listeners how to find you on media.
On Twitter, I'm DocJ6, and I know Coach Lawrence will put that in my bio because the spelling is kind of funky on there. And then Instagram, PA Longoria, and then at Cypress Park Football is on Twitter, and it's on Instagram as well. You can see some of the stuff we do on there, and we share a lot of stuff, whether it's the athletics or the academics. We make sure that we put everything out there about our kids to make sure that they're rewarded in every way possible.
Thanks again, Coach. You can find me on Twitter at Coach Lawrence FB, as in football. You can search 4th and 4 podcast on Spotify, on YouTube, on Amazon Music, and we just got approved for iTunes today. So we're moving on up there. Our last episode got over 100 downloads on YouTube. So, Coach, we're moving up, and hopefully you break the record.
Coach, I appreciate that. And then I would like to request later on down the line, you need to get Coach Trahan and I on the same episode so we can share our moments about that third place finish in state for wrestling, because we have a lot of good stories about that season.
The special episodes are coming, right? Like, we're going to break off and we're going to have the whole, like, man, like, not to take his ideas, but how Rogan will break off and have the UFC episodes or whatever. We're going to do the same thing. We'll have the special episodes. We just got to get rolling.